Guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome to another episode of Guitar Tips. My name is Adam Levy. This is my video blog series on YouTube. I'm currently doing a series within the series, and it's called the ABCs of Guitar Tips. And if you want to know more about what it's all about, you can work your way backwards. This is the fourth episode, so I'm going to talk about something that begins with the letter D. And if you go back to the A episode, I explain the genesis of this ABCs of Guitar Tips series. So I hope you'll check that out. Meanwhile, this is the fourth episode, something that begins with D. So I'm going to talk about the power of drop voicings, drop 2, drop 3, and so on. Now, I did do a tip on these earlier on in the series, a little while back. There's a tip called What the Drop, and I will include a link to that down below here. But I rewatched it recently, and I realized that it kind of presumes that you already know a lot about harmony and chords and the layout of the guitar and so on. So I wanted to do a new episode here that approaches it from a way that I hope will be accessible and just easy to get for anybody, whether you're into jazz or not into jazz, or regardless of how much harmony you already know and understand. So the first thing that I need to explain, illustrate, before I get into the real basic stuff of what drop 2 voicings are. I'm just going to play a couple of things so you can get the sound of them, so you'll know where we're eventually getting to. And then I'll make it hopefully very simple and clear. So we use drop voicings very often to harmonize melodies. So let's say you had this melody. So I could use drop 2 voicings to harmonize that melody. So that's the sound of drop 2 voicings. We could also use drop 3 voicings, which are a little wider sounding. I'm going to change keys here. I'll do it in this key. So this is the sound of drop 3 voicings. And you may know these chord shapes already. This C major 7 may be a chord, or this D minor 7. These might be chord shapes that you're already familiar with, even if you don't think of them as drop 3 voicings. But that's kind of the sound. This is, these are drop 3 voicings, and earlier I was playing drop 2 voicings. You might know this C major 7 voicing. You may know this G major 7 voicing or not, I don't know. So that's just the basic sound of them, and that's what we do with drop voicings. We can use them to support a melody and play chords under it. So it's often used by jazz guitarists playing in a chord melody style. There's other things you can do with drop voicings, but that's a common application of them. So now that you know a common application, let's just get to the real basics of what they're made of. What are we dropping? What's happening? What's the big idea? So let's think of the harmony of D major. So that's the sort of broad harmonic context that we're going to work in for the next few minutes. So let's pick a melody note. Now I'm going to pick F sharp. It's a nice note in D harmony. So it's the third as it happens, but Whether you know that or not, that's just what it is. It's F sharp, and the basic harmony sense here is D, and we're going to have that note. That's our melody. Now, if we don't add any notes to it, we don't have harmony, we just have melody. But drop voicings are about harmony, so let's add a note. If we want to support that F sharp note, and the harmony is D major, well, why don't we just try putting the next closest note in the chord right underneath it. So below F sharp in D major harmony, the next closest note is D. So now we've got these two notes, our melody and then a support note. So we're going to call melody note 1. The F sharp is note 1. The fact that it's the third of the chord, that's good to know. But when we talk about drop voicings, we're just going to number things in an even simpler way. Melody is always note 1, and then we just count down from that and we number them. So this is note 1, this is note 2. 1, 2. So that's a nice close sound. But if we want to open up the sound, which is something that it's one of the main things that drop kind of voicings are useful for, they take harmony and they open it up. So you have a more spread out sound and maybe a more, complex or rich kind of sound. So let's see what happens if we drop. And drop just means drop it down 1 octave. So what we're going to do is going to take this note D and find it 1 octave lower. That's all. Dropping always means down an octave. Drop is down an octave. So drop D down an octave. Here it is on the open D string, and this is our sound. So here's where we started, and then a little buzzy, there we go. And then here it is in the drop version. Now, when jazz players talk about drop voicings, they're not usually talking about doing it with 2 notes. I'm just explaining it this way because I think it will be more clear. We'll get to the bigger chords at the end of this, but I'm going to start with just 2 notes. So that's not dropped. This is dropped. Okay, simple enough. Now, let's say we wanted to add one more note, a third note, in this same kind of D harmony. It would be logical to add this note. We've already got the third of the chord and the root, so let's add the 5th. So now we've got a complete triad. As it happens, it's a 2nd inversion triad. It's neither here nor there, but if you know that, you can give yourself a good pat on the back. That's a 2nd inversion D major triad. Now we've got all of the notes going, all of the notes that we need to express D major. So again, we could drop 2, 1, 2, and that could be to open D, and then we would get this sound. So from low to high, I'm now playing D, A, F sharp, because we dropped the D that was up here down to the open string, and the melody stays, and we didn't do anything with this third note here. So that is, you could say that that's a drop 2 D triad here. We could also talk about dropping 3. So 1, 2, 3. If this note A could go to the open A string, and we would get this. I'm playing A, D, F sharp. So this A went down an octave to here, and these 2 notes didn't move. So again, starting place, drop 2, drop 3, and then we could see what happens if we drop 2 and 3. So D goes down to here, A goes down to here, and we get this sound. So where we started, drop 2, drop 3, drop 2 and 3. Right? Does that make sense so far? I hope so. That's the basic idea. Now we get to how people use this more commonly. They drop voicings are used not for triads but for 4-part chords like D major 7, for example. So this is D major 7, or this is actually already a drop voicing. So let's get to what it is in without dropping. So to do that, I'm gonna move the guitar up here so maybe you can see it a little better. I've moved this F sharp over here because it'll make stuff easier to reach, and we're gonna go just down the notes of D major 7 as close as we can get them from the melody F sharp. So below, we need to know that the four notes are D, F sharp, A, and C sharp. Those are the four notes that make up D major 7. That's the root, 3, the 5, and the 7 from a D major scale. So coming down from the top, the closest note to F sharp is D. Closest note to D going down is C sharp, and then the closest note below that is A. So this would be D major 7 still with F sharp in the melody, without any kind of drops, just a close position, getting everything as cozy as we can. That's the sound. All right. Now, if we want to spread that sound out, we can again go to drop 2. I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how we're numbering things here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we want to drop 2, that's D, and everything else will stay where it is. So the melody stays where it is. This is going to go down an octave from D to D, and C sharp and A don't have to go anywhere. So we would get this. This D was here a moment ago. I don't know if you can see that. So it was here on the 3rd string. Now it's on the 6th string. We have this. It's an unfamiliar grip. I would guess it's an unfamiliar grip to you. It's not particularly familiar to me. But what happens if we take these 3 notes and move them now to this string set from here to here and keep this F sharp, now this may be a more familiar grip to you. So that's D major 7 with F sharp on top. And we can call this a drop 2 voicing because the D that was here on the 3rd string at the 7th fret is now at the 5th string at the 5th fret. Or if you want to play it the weird way, you could do it like this. Or I imagine you could do it this way too. So I'm at 10th fret, 12th fret, 11th fret, 11th fret. And the same 4 notes can be found right here. Open D string, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret. So that's drop 2. So now let's see what happens if we want to drop 3. Now we've got to get the C sharp from here on the 4th string down to the 6th string. And that would give us, if all of the other stuff stays in place, so melody stays, the note below that stays, the C sharp is going to move down, and the A stays. I'm going to make this a little easier to play by moving this A over here. And now we have this sound. So it would be like if you were walking down, that's where that chord might be useful. So it's really like a D triad with C sharp in the bass. That's the drop 3 version of this. As we dropped this C sharp down an octave to here, and then we refingered it a little bit so that it was a more practical voicing. That also exists over here. So it'd be just like a D triad with C sharp in the bass, which you could finger like this or like this. And it's here. And that's that sound. I guess you could do it here as well. Let's see. Yeah. There you go. Another type of drop voicing is drop 2 and drop 3. So let's take that chord and drop D and C sharp down an octave. And we wind up with this. Let's see. Sound because we've got the root and the 7th right next to each other. But that's the sound. So F sharp didn't move. That's the 1. D and C sharp went down an octave to here. And this A that was over here, I'm going to move it over here. It's the same pitch, same octave. We just moved it over here so that we could get it all in one grip. So that's drop 2 and drop 3. We can even drop 2 and 4. So that means D goes down an octave and A goes down an octave, and C sharp and F sharp don't move. So that would turn out to be this. Wow, that's a beautiful sound. So we went from here, we dropped, this is 4 dropping, and this is 2 dropping. So we get here. And this all would apply, I've done this all with major 7, but you could do it with dominant 7. That would be D7. You could do it with minor 7. This would be D minor 7. This would be D minor 7 flat 5, and so on. So you can move things around as needed. I'm just doing it with major 7 to keep it all in the same kind of sound. So those are really the common drops. Drop 2, drop 3, drop 2 and 3, drop 2 and 4. I suppose in theory you could drop 3 and 4, but you don't hear that too much because that really spreads things out quite a lot. But it exists. So I've dropped the C sharp and A from here down to here. We can try to move this up the scale. Not unuseful sound, but a pretty uncommon sound. The most common drop voicings are drop 2, which if you know major 7 and minor 7 voicings across 4 strings, and those 4 strings are all together, then you're probably playing a drop 2. So like, let's say I'm going to totally change keys here. Here's F minor 7. If you know that grip, that's on 4 strings together. That's a drop 2 voicing. That same thing over here. I'm now on the middle 4 strings. It's a minor 7 chord, root 3 5, root flat 3 5 and flat 7 on contiguous. Is that the word? 4 contiguous strings. Here's a low F minor 7 again on 4 contiguous strings. That's a drop 2. Now, if you use this voicing where there's a gap between the lowest 2 notes, that's a drop 3 voicing. So if you have 3 strings together and a gap, that's drop 3. Most of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time in the common voicings. So even if the gap was on strings between strings 5 and 3, if you have 3 strings together up high and then a gap, and then so that's gap on the 4th string, that's drop 3. If you have a gap between the high note and the next note down, that's drop 2 and 3. So that's F minor 7, drop 2, drop 3. This is F minor 7, drop 3. This is F minor 7, drop 2, all with the same melody note on top. So F minor 7, drop 2, drop 3, drop 2, and 3. So I hope you're starting to get the idea of what these chords are, how they're built, and how you might use them. A really important thing, I know I've already said it, but I'll say it again, the melody note is never going to move. We're always building chords in support, in service of the melody. So the melody is note 1. 1 is never going to move. And it's pretty uncommon to move just the 4 because it again results in just a really giant sound that may not be useful. So like here's that D major 7. If if I just drop 4, we get this. I mean, it's a pretty sound, but it's really spread out, and it's not particularly portable. Anyway, it's a thing that you could use, but is not all that common. But if you can learn your drop 2s and your drop 3s, and maybe your drop 2s and drop 3s, you would have a lot of harmony at your fingertips, no pun intended. And if you want to learn more about how to build those chords and also how to practice them, I give some strategies for how to practice them at the end of the What the Drop episode. So you can check that one out along with the stuff that I've talked about here. So hopefully you've learned how drop chords are built and how you could use them, and hopefully it's clear. If it's not clear, write a comment down below and I'll see what I can do to make things more clear. For guitar tips in Los Angeles, California, I am Adam Levy. Stay tuned and take good care.